Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Sorry, they are late again this week. I was at an event last night, Origins. It was a huge boxing promotion. In association with Matchroom, but not really helmed by Matchroom. Charlie Sims, Tony Sims, shout out to them. Shout out to the people that was on the undercard. Julia Lee, Maisie Rose Courtney, Shannon Ryan, Tom Liddard, Jimmy Sains. It was all their thing down at York Hall. Some of those interviews you will be seeing a little bit later on, either today, tomorrow, Monday, etc. So I did a couple. Feel free to check those out. But we've got picks to make. Not really going to be any huge breakdowns and style mix-ups or whatever. We're just going to get into it. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. Okay, so first card going to look at is the card taking place in Liverpool. This is at the exhibition center up there. This is headlined by Natasha Jonas and Ivana Harbazin. I won't be able to watch it live. I think October Red is doing a live watch along for this and the Monte Carlo show for the Zone. She's going to flick between the shows, so make sure you tune into her channel if you want that live interactive content. I will actually be at a different show. It's going to be a small hall show up at Harrow Leisure Centre. There's a few fighters on the undercards there that I'll be looking at, specifically Lucas Roerig's pro debut. You guys would have seen me interview him a little bit ago on the channel, so yeah, I'm going up to support that. So with that being said, let's get into some of the fights that's on here. Vidal Riley is basically, he's back against Dan Garber. This is actually interesting. Dan Garber's a last minute opponent, but Dan Garber is in fact a heavyweight. He's weighed in about 16 stone 4, something that's about 228 pounds. You know, Vidal Riley came in I think at 201 pounds on the scale. You know, he's a cruiserweight, but he's taking on heavyweight / bridgerweight for this fight. He's quite comfortable to do it. He said he's happy to, you know, to give up that 2 stone weight advantage at this stage. So yeah, it will be interesting. I'm going to predict he'll get it done by points. I'm not sure if he'll be able to get the stoppage with a guy that much bigger on so little preparation, but good luck to him. You've also got who was it? Mark Jeffers is on the card against Joshua Corte. I know Jeffers has been you know, he's been calling out for a Callum Simpson fight. He's looking to basically make Corte his next victim, so to speak. Quite frankly, there's a very big height disparity between the two, which sometimes will pose problems for some people, but I think Jeffers is on a trajectory at this point in time. So I'm predicting Jeffers to win. I'm predicting him to win via quite an ugly knockout in about 3 to 4 rounds, if I'm honest. Stephen McKenna versus Lee Cutler. This is the grudge match of the weekend. Basically, it's the one where both guys have got a point to prove, but you've got Lee Cutler. I think he's 14-1. He was stopped in his one loss, so but he's been on a good consistent run since then. But then obviously Stephen McKenna is 15 fights deep, 14 knockouts. He's only been the distance once in a 6th round. I think it was about 6 or 7 fights ago. But in his last fight, when he faced Joe Laws, he did end up on the canvas in round 1. He put Joe Laws down in round 1, but he ended up on the canvas worse than Joe Laws did right at the end of the round, and it was fortunate it was at the end of the round. But he ended up getting Joe Laws out of there in 3. Now, Cutler don't necessarily have the same kind of power, grit and determination as Laws does, but he's still pretty technical, can be, you know, he can be a bit smart with how he sets things up. But I do think the momentum ultimately is on McKenna's side. I think he has everything basically going for him at this moment in time, and this, while it's not quote unquote a showcase fight for him, he's definitely the person that is on the ascendancy in this you know, sort of in this realm. He has been facing a lot of smaller opponents, which could potentially have padded out the record, but I can't take away from the fact that Cutler in his lone defeat was stopped. So obviously the chin is there to be checked. So I'm gonna go for Stephen McKenna to check the chin. I'm not sure when. I think maybe late, probably around the 8th or the 9th round. But yeah, I'm gonna go for McKenna to win that via stoppage. Next, you got Lauren Price versus Bexy Matthias. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Bexy has been over here for the last several months training with Clifton Mitchell. And if that's the case, I think from what I've heard, he's basically been instructing her, don't be trying to box with Lauren, don't be trying to set things up, set about her, make it ugly, get warnings if you have to, even if you need to get a point deducted, just rough her up and go for the gusto that way. Can she get close enough to Lauren to do any of that? I've seen some footage of her fights. She's pretty heavy-handed, to be fair. She does throw punches in bunches, good accumulation, but she is a bit of a plodder. Lauren, as we know, is extremely quick, extremely agile, and she's snappy. I think Lauren, maybe she might lose 1 or 2 rounds just due to maybe getting caught with a hard shot that makes her have to sort of reset and go not so much survival mode, but just reset and reassess. But realistically, I see this being a another near perfect performance for her. I don't think Bexy's going to offer huge amounts of resistance unless she decides to just go for broke, be very dirty, nasty, and just horrible in the ring. But yeah, Lauren Price, unanimous decision win, quite comfortable, quite clear. All right, main event time. You got Natasha Jonas versus Ivana Habazin. Now look, Habazin has been in the ring with some of the best women of this and the previous era. She has gone the distance with Cecilia Breakhouse. She's gone the distance with Terry Harper. She's gone the distance with Clarissa Shields. But she has been stopped before, back in 2016, by Michaela Lauren. That was in Stockholm, Sweden. From what I can remember, though, I do think it was a bit of a soft stoppage. I think the referee kind of just jumped in after it was a little bit of a flurry in the third round. I can't remember exactly how it went, but there is one obviously stoppage defeat on the record. Whereas you got Natasha on the other side, 15-2. Obviously, she was stopped by Vivian Obernoff years and years ago. But I think this is going to be one of those fights where the ultimate skill and the slight speed advantage of Natasha is going to be what wins the day. Ivana Habazin isn't great dealing with southpaws, and Natasha is one of the best female southpaws out there. It's going to be, I think the first few rounds are going to be where the struggle is for Ivana in terms of trying to get that range, and I think that's going to be the point where Natasha takes the quite clear and commanding lead. I think Ivana Habazin will get into the fight in the mid to late rounds, but by that time I think she would have lost enough of the earlier stuff to be able to really sort of get back into it. So I'm predicting it will be sort of a 97-93 where Natasha wins, sort of 7 rounds, maybe nicking a couple towards the end, whereas Ivana starts to get into it but just gets into it a bit too late. So I do expect Natasha Jonas to win via unanimous decision. That's the pick. And then on to unifications, I suppose. Okay, so next we move on to the card that's taking place in Monaco, Monte Carlo. And look, five fights, Matchroom, it's their regular Monte Carlo show that they do once a year. There's been a couple of years where they didn't get to have it, but normally they say it's a good time, and all of the the so-called who's and the wannabes love to be there and be in attendance for these particular shows, but I'm sure they're very expensive to go to. Anyway, that being said, 5-fight card. I don't think there's any undercard. There's no before the bell prelims or anything like that. Just 5 fights. So I know that the opening bout is going to be Terra taking on Vladimir Katsuk, I think his name is, Ukrainian, 5-1. It's about 232, but you know, Terra I think is like 268 for this fight, 270 something along those lines. I'm expecting a nasty knockout, probably in round 3 or 4. Yeah, I think Terra he's gonna not allow Katsuk to try to be the you know, sort of that on the back foot trying to set things up. I think he's just gonna go for it and just have Katsuk in survival mode, especially maybe from the second round on. And yeah, I think it either gets stopped, probably third or fourth, or you know, he hits the canvas an ungodly way, and yeah, that just ends ends like that. That's how I'm gonna put that one. Next up, Beatriz Ferreira against Licia Budesa. Look, Budesa has been a champion at lower weights before, and even though you could say a lot of people will feel like this weight is a weight that Beatriz Ferreira is undersized at, her power definitely carries and makes up for the, you know, the size advantage that she does give away to some of these big 135 pounders. I wonder if she could actually make featherweight. She probably could, but featherweight 130, I know she's campaigned between 130 to 135 in the previous bouts. But yeah, look, Budesa, good, you know, decent fighter, a little bit long in the tooth in terms of her career. 23 2-2, has been stopped, and I think she gets stopped again. I think she gets stopped in a similar fashion to the way that Destiny Jones got stopped a couple fights ago. So yeah, that's my prediction, and I think it will be in about round 5 or 6. Gary Cully versus Maxi Hughes. Look, Maxi Hughes is the one with the big experience, so you would expect him to be the clear favorite in this. He's had some very rough decisions as of late. He's been unfortunate. He's been robbed of a couple victories, but he's also taken a couple beatings as well, especially his very last fight against William Zepeda. He was he was pretty badly beaten up in there. Decided to try and sit and trade with William Zepeda instead of, oh sorry, that wasn't the last fight, was it? He had a comeback fight since then. But either way, yeah, he had it was just a horrible night for him. He rebounded off of that one. Now he's in this Gary Cully fight. Now everything's telling me that he should in fact win this. And Gary Cully, ever since getting knocked out, he doesn't seem the same person that he was prior to that. You know, sort of taking on the Jose Felix fight. See, I think that Maxi Hughes wins, and I would be expecting to just go for the, you know, for that upset victory, quote unquote, even though he is the guy on the up and up. But for some reason, I've got a feeling that Gary Cully's going to get the decision, maybe a disputed decision, like split decision or something like that. So against what I see in my head, I'm going to pick Gary Cully to win this one via a split or some kind of contestable decision. That's going to be the pick. Next, you got Chev Clark against Leonardo Mosquera. I haven't seen much of Mosquera, but I've seen a lot of Chev Clark in the ring, and I'm assuming that the pressure is going to be what makes this fight basically go to the necessary levels. However, I'm gonna be conservative here, and I'm gonna predict a points decision. As much as you don't get paid for overtime, I think Chev does need to go the distance a couple more times. Like he needs to get comfortable knowing that he can go that distance at whatever pace that he sets. I'm not saying he's going to be planning to do that, and I think Mosquera might actually prove that kind of test. You know, 15-0, 9 KOs, you know, so he's not feather fisted at all. Chev's gonna have to be careful in the fight, But I do think that, yeah, I think Chef Clark wins, but I'm going to go points decision because I think he will get taken to points, and I think Mosquera will get to a point in the fight where he may try to not be as ambitious and just sort of try to last the distance. Moving on to the main event, which is Mojan Akhmadaliev against Ricardo Espinosa Franco. Looking at Espinosa's record, there's the wins. There's no notable wins on there, I would say, but the losses that he's had quite noticeable, or I would say notable as to who they were. Daniel Roman, John Romero Casimero, who is the only person that's actually stopped him. But then, Christian Ayala as well. Sam Rodriguez was like both early in the career, so don't really count that one as much. But yeah, there's no real notable wins. I would say, oh, okay, that's one that makes me say that you can kind of, that you will be anything other than just a valiant second. If MJ turns up, he's been out of the ring for over a year waiting on this Inoue fight. He needs to fight. He's been inactive. I hope the inactivity doesn't rear its ugly head as it does sometimes with these people, but I'm gonna go with him to win. I think if he's got anything left in him at that top level, he needs to make a statement and he has to get a knockout, and it has to be inside the first 10 rounds. He needs to get those rounds back in the bank, but I'm going to go with the knockout. I'm going to go with the stoppage about the 10th round. I think that should be where this ends. That's my prediction. Let me know what you guys think below. And last but not least, we're going to go to the Golden Boy Promotions card that's taking place in Ontario, California. It's headlined by Alexis Rocha versus Raul Curiel. I'm not going to go through all of the fights on this undercard, but there are 4 fights in particular that I think will be interesting. So John Scrappy Ramirez against Ephraim Bui. I think Ramirez will sort of get back to winning ways on this one. It was his last fight. He lost via unanimous decision against David Jimenez. I think he will get back into it on this one, possibly with a stoppage. But that's why I'm going to go with this, even though Ephraim Boy is actually, he's a pretty decent super flyweight, 10-0, 8 KOs. So Ramirez can't just run in thinking that he's going to, just have his way. But I do think he'll get back into winning ways with a stoppage. Marlon Esparza makes a return against Aurelie Masinho, who hasn't fought since she got knocked out by Gabriela Fondora last year. But she, it's been 13 months since she's been out of the ring, but she was previous champion. She's got championship pedigree. Personally, I've never rated Marlon Esparza. The majority of her fights, I feel that she's been gifted decisions. I don't know what they have left for her personally. And if I'm gonna be real, I would pick Masinho to win this one. Esparza's obviously gone. She's still in the same weight class. She's still campaigning at 112. Yeah. So Aurelie Masinho, if she's still got anything left in her, I'm picking her to win this fight. And it will probably be a split decision content, just because they love to score these fights for Marlon Esparza even when she doesn't deserve them. But I'm gonna go for Aurelie Masinho because she is definitely the better fighter of the two, the more accomplished, and probably would be the more deserving on the night. So I'm going to preempt it that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if the scorecards go the other way in another very, very contentious, questionable decision. After that, you've got Charles Conwell. Now, I really like watching Charles Conwell fight. He's taking on Gerardo Luis Figueroa, I think the guy's name is. I'm not going to say that I know him, but I do know that he's an undefeated fighter at this point in time. I think he's like 20-0 with 13 KOs, which works because Charles Conwell is 20-0 with 15 KOs. So they've basically got exactly the same records. Conwell's got a couple more KOs than he has. But what I will say is Figueroa, I know he's Argentinian. Notoriously very, very tough people, very strong, very durable, stamina for days. Very hard-headed, but usually you get them to the body. So it will be interesting to see how the fight plays out. But I'm going with Cromwell to win the fight. I think he's just on a mad trajectory right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does afterwards. So I'm going to go with a stoppage. I think he might get the stoppage late, and I think it will be a stoppage to the body, or maybe like a body combination to soften him up, and then maybe just the head to finish it, with probably the ref jumping in. That's kind of how I'm going to predict that one. And then right at the top of we got Alexis Rocha against Raul Correal. Now Correal 15-0, 13 KOs. So he's a puncher. Not only is he a puncher, Mexican. You can never. To be honest, if you've got like a Mexican fighter that's an undefeated fighter, usually that means that they must be the goods in that region, because they all sort of swap, they all kind of swap losses to each other when they're all coming up, because they're all just in tough from the start. I don't know enough about him. I haven't seen any of the victories that he had, but the knockout power is one thing that's I think could be interesting here, because Alexis Rocha isn't the biggest of punchers. Of his 25 victories, he's won 16 of them by KO. But he's been knocked out once, obviously, by Santillán for his, in one of his losses, and then obviously lost to Rashidi Ellis back in the day. He should win. I'm going to go with him to win, especially considering that, Golden Boy are notorious for not matching their fighters tough unless it's like a championship fight against like the number one in the division. Oscar's very clearly put that out there before, so there must be enough in here for them to say Alexis Rocha is going to win this fight and win it quite comfortably. Probably I'm going to go on points though. I don't think he's going to get the stoppage, but I think he's going to have a couple of very, very troublesome, hairy moments in this fight. So yeah, I'm going to go via UD decision, but in a fight that doesn't go his own way. Let me know what you guys think of the predictions. Again, sorry they're so late, but yeah, we move, we do what we need to do. That being said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Leave your comments below. I'll respond as and when I can, but for right now, it's Basis Picks locked.